Step away from the truck. Now. That placard's fake.
My hands are visible, officer. That placard is legal. I'm disabled.
You don't look disabled to me. Turn around.
I'm a retired Marine captain. Check the tag before you ruin your career.
Officer Derek Vance had been with the Metro Police Department for 4 years, and in that short time, he had cultivated a reputation that should have had his badge on the captain's desk years ago. He was 32 years old, aggressive, and possessed that dangerous combination of limited life experience and absolute authority. He walked with a swagger that suggested he was always ready for a fight, scanning his beat not for community members to protect, but for targets to dominate. His personnel file was a graveyard of warnings that never stuck. 9 complaints in 4 years, 6 for excessive force, 3 for profiling. In every instance, Vance had found a way to justify his aggression. A teenager reached for his waistband. A motorist exhibited pre-assault indicators. A pedestrian refused a lawful order. His union representative was excellent. His supervisors were overworked, and the system was designed to give the benefit of the doubt to the badge, not the citizen. Vance believed he was the thin blue line standing between order and chaos. He believed his instincts were sharp. He believed that if someone looked like they didn't belong, they usually didn't. And on this bright, sunny Saturday morning, his instincts told him that the large black man driving a brand-new $60,000 Ford F-250 King Ranch pickup truck did not belong in the premium disabled parking spot at the front of the lot. He didn't check the license plate. He didn't run the registration. He just saw the man, saw the truck, and made a decision that would cost the city nearly $7 million. Before we get into the details of how Officer Vance destroyed his own life in under 20 minutes, tell us where you are watching from. We have a community of patriots here who believe in justice, and your comments help us push these stories into the spotlight. Patriot Home and Hardware was the anchor store of a sprawling suburban shopping center just outside of Charlotte. It was the kind of place where do-it-yourselfers, contractors, and retirees gathered on Saturday mornings to talk about lawn care and lumber prices. The smell of sawdust and hot dogs from the cart out front filled the air. It was 10:15 a.m. The sun was high, the sky was a brilliant cloudless blue, and the parking lot was a chaotic sea of SUVs and pickup trucks fighting for space. Captain Marcus Thorne, retired, had parked his metallic blue truck in the first disabled spot near the lumber entrance. He had earned that spot, though he would have given anything to trade the privilege for his original hip and left knee. Thorne was 58 years old, a retired Marine Corps captain who had spent 26 years in service to his country. He stood 6'2", with the broad shoulders of a man who had carried rucksacks heavier than most people's consciences. He moved with a slight, stiff limp, the permanent souvenir from an IED blast in Fallujah that had earned him a Purple Heart and a shattered pelvis. He also held a Silver Star for Valor awarded for pulling 3 of his Marines out of a burning Humvee under heavy machine gun fire. Thorne was a man of discipline and quiet dignity. He didn't wear his service on his sleeve. There were no bumper stickers on his truck. No Semper Fi decals, just a small, subtle Marine Corps emblem on his license plate frame. He was dressed in clean work boots, pressed jeans, and a plain navy blue polo shirt. He looked like exactly what he was, a successful retired professional catching up on home repairs. He had just purchased 20 bags of mulch and some treated lumber for a garden bed his wife wanted. He wasn't bothering a soul. He was minding his own business, moving slowly but deliberately as he organized his receipt. But to the man watching him from a sleek silver luxury SUV 3 cars back, Marcus Thorne was an obstacle. Braden Holt was 29 years old, a commercial real estate developer who had inherited his father's business and his mother's impatience. He was driving a Porsche Cayenne, wearing sunglasses that cost more than a beat cop's weekly salary, and he was late for a tea time. Holt felt that the world existed to facilitate his schedule. He had circled the lot twice, looking for a spot close to the door so he could run in, grab a specific light fixture, and leave. When he saw Thorne's truck pull into the blue-lined handicap space, Holt didn't see a disabled veteran. He saw a black man in a truck that was nicer than some of his employees' cars, walking, albeit with a limp, into the store. In Holt's worldview, things had a certain order. People like him parked in the front. People like Thorne parked in the back. The disability placard hanging from Thorne's rearview mirror didn't register as legitimate to Holt. It registered as a scam. "Look at him," Holt muttered to himself, drumming his fingers on the leather steering wheel. "Walking fine. Probably his grandma's placard." He watched Thorne exit the store 10 minutes later, pushing a flatbed cart. Holt rolled down his window. "Hey, you know those spots are for people who actually need them, right?" Thorne paused, looked at the young man, and continued loading his truck without a word. He had dealt with insurgents and generals. He had no time for entitled children in Porsches. Holt took the silence as an insult. His face flushed. He grabbed his phone and dialed 911. "Yes, I'm at Patriot Home and Hardware. There's a guy here threatening people in the parking lot. He's illegally parked in a handicap spot, and when I asked him to move, he got aggressive. I think he might have a weapon in his truck. He's huge. You need to send someone before he hurts someone." The dispatcher logged the call: disturbance, potential weapon. Suspect described as a large black male in a blue pickup. Illegal use of handicap placard. Officer Vance was 2 blocks away when the call came in. The dispatcher's voice crackled with the details, and Vance's mind immediately painted the picture. A large male causing a scene, probably shouting, probably intimidation. He hit his lights and siren, cutting through the Saturday traffic with aggressive swerves. He arrived at the hardware store at 10:24 a.m., screeching to a halt directly behind Thorne's truck, blocking him in. Vance exited his patrol car, his hand already resting near his holster. He didn't look for the 911 caller. He didn't survey the scene for witnesses. He locked his eyes on Marcus Thorne, who was carefully lifting a bag of mulch into the bed of his truck. To Vance, Thorne's size was a threat. His silence was defiance. And the nice truck that was suspicious. "Get away from the vehicle," Vance barked, closing the distance rapidly. Thorne set the bag down slowly. He didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He turned to face the officer, his movements measured and calm, ingrained from decades of military bearing. "Officer, can I help you?" "I said step away from the truck. Put your hands where I can see them." Thorne held his hands out to his sides, palms open. "My hands are visible. I am the owner of this vehicle. I am loading my purchases. I have a report that you're harassing citizens and using a fake handicap placard. Is that your placard? It is issued to me by the state officer. My registration is in the glove box and my identification is in my back pocket. I am a retired Marine captain. If you check the tag..." "I don't care what you say you are. I'm telling you that you don't look disabled to me." This is the moment where bias turns into liability. Officer Vance had a choice. He could have walked to the front of the truck and checked the placard. He could have asked for ID calmly. He could have listened to the tone of the man's voice, educated, authoritative calm. But Vance didn't want to be wrong. He wanted to be in control. "Turn around," Vance ordered. "You're detaining me," Thorne asked, his voice deepening. "I have committed no crime. I am a disabled veteran parked in a legal spot. You're creating a disturbance. Now turn around or I will make you turn around." "Officer, you are making a grave error," Thorne said, looking Vance directly in the eyes. "I am Captain Marcus Thorne. I served 26 years. I have shrapnel in my hip that makes standing on this asphalt very painful. I am asking you to verify my credentials before you take this any further." Vance laughed, a short, sharp sound of derision. "Yeah, and I'm the police commissioner. Turn around." Vance grabbed Thorne's left wrist, the side with the bad shoulder, and twisted it sharply behind his back. Thorne grunted in pain but did not resist. He knew that any movement could be interpreted as assault. He let his training take over. "I am not resisting," Thorne announced loudly, his voice carrying over the parking lot. Shoppers stopped pushing their carts. People pulled out their phones. "I am complying with your orders. I am a disabled veteran being arrested without cause." "Stop fighting me," Vance shouted for the benefit of the cameras despite Thorne standing perfectly still. Vance kicked Thorne's legs apart, forcing the older man to spread his stance wide, sending a jolt of agony through his shattered hip. He slapped the handcuffs on tight, too tight. The metal bit into Thorne's wrists. "You're under arrest for disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and misuse of a handicap placard." "Check my wallet," Thorne said through gritted teeth, sweat beading on his forehead from the pain in his hip. "Left back pocket. My military retired ID is right next to my driver's license." "I'll check it at the station," Vance sneered. He marched Thorne toward the patrol car. The crowd was growing. "He didn't do anything," a woman yelled from near the garden center. "He was just loading mulch," a man in a baseball cap shouted. "He's got a Purple Heart license plate, you moron." Vance ignored them all. He shoved Thorne into the back of the cruiser. Thorne had to twist his body awkwardly to protect his bad leg, groaning as he fell onto the hard plastic seat. Vance slammed the door, feeling a rush of adrenaline. He had taken down the threat. He walked back to Thorne's truck not to check the placard, but to secure it for towing. He glanced at the windshield. The placard was there. The expiration date was valid. The photo on it matched the man in the car. For a split second, a seed of doubt planted itself in Vance's stomach, but he crushed it immediately. Fake, he told himself. Good forgery. "I'll prove it." He got back into his patrol car and pulled away, leaving the confused and angry crowd behind. He didn't interview the caller Braden Holt, who had watched the entire scene from his rearview mirror before speeding off, realizing things had gotten far more serious than he intended. The drive to the precinct took 15 minutes. Thorne sat in the back, breathing rhythmically to manage the pain radiating from his hip. He didn't speak. He didn't plead. He was doing what he had done before: missions in the desert, gathering intelligence, memorizing the timeline, preparing his counteroffensive. He noted the officer's nameplate on the dashboard. D. Vance. He noted the speed. He noted the time. They arrived at the precinct at 10:55 a.m. Vance pulled Thorne out of the car again, handling him roughly, and walked him into the processing area. The station was busy, phones ringing, officers typing reports. Behind the high desk sat Sergeant Thomas Miller. Miller was 58 years old, the same age as Thorne. He was a Vietnam-era baby who had joined the force in the late 80s. He was tired, he was fair, and he had seen everything. "What do we have, Vance?" Miller asked, looking up over his reading glasses. "Disorderly resisting and fake placard," Vance said, puffing out his chest. "Guy was making a scene at the hardware store. Refused to identify. Claimed he was some kind of war hero." Vance pulled Thorne's wallet out of his pocket and tossed it onto the counter with a dismissive slap. "Probably has a fake badge in there, too." Miller looked at Thorne. He saw the way the man was standing, weight shifted off his left leg. Face pale, but jaw set like granite. He saw the haircut, high and tight, graying at the temples. He saw the eyes, not fearful, but burning with a controlled, righteous fury. Miller felt a prickle of unease. He reached out and opened the wallet. The first thing he saw was the driver's license. Marcus J. Thorne. The second thing he saw was the Department of Defense Uniformed Services ID card. It was the gold version, retired. Rank Captain 0 to 3. Status USMC retired. Behind it was a folded, laminated card that many veterans carry, a summary of service for medical emergencies. Awards: Silver Star, Bronze Star with V Purple Heart 2. Miller's blood ran cold. He looked up at Vance, who was smirking near the water cooler. "Vance," Miller said, his voice quiet but carrying a tremor of impending doom. "Did you check this man's ID at the scene?" "He wouldn't give it to me. He was shouting about being a captain." "He is a captain, you idiot," Miller hissed. He stood up, bypassing the plexiglass barrier. "Uncuff him, now." "Sarge, he was resisting." "I said uncuff him immediately," Miller roared, startling the entire room. "You just arrested a Marine Corps officer with a Silver Star for parking in a spot he is legally entitled to." Vance froze. The color drained from his face. He looked at the wallet, then at Thorne. Thorne stood tall despite the handcuffs. "Sergeant," Thorne said, his voice calm and level, "my left hip is reconstructed titanium. Your officer kicked my legs apart and forced me into the vehicle. I am currently in significant distress." Miller rounded the desk and grabbed the keys from Vance's shaking hand. He unlocked the cuffs himself. "Captain Thorne, I cannot apologize enough." Thorne rubbed his wrists where deep red furrows had formed. "I don't want your apology, Sergeant. I want your lieutenant. And I want the contact information for the JAG office at Camp Lejeune, though I suspect my civilian attorney will handle this." Lieutenant Henderson, the watch commander, emerged from his office. He was a sharp man who prioritized procedure. When he heard the summary, he didn't argue. He didn't try to spin it. He looked at the dashcam footage, which had automatically uploaded. He saw Thorne standing with his hands open. He saw Vance twist the arm. He saw the valid placard clearly visible in the video frame. "Officer Vance," Henderson said, his voice devoid of any warmth. "Badge and gun. Place them on the desk." "Sir, I was following protocol. The caller said—" "You didn't speak to the caller. You didn't check the placard. You didn't verify ID. You assaulted a disabled man because you decided he didn't look the part. You are done for the day. Go home. Do not speak to anyone." While Vance was being stripped of his equipment, the investigation into the 911 call began. It didn't take long to trace the number to Braden Holt. The security footage from the hardware store showed the interaction, Holt shouting at Thorne, ignoring him, and Holt making the call while watching from his car. There was no weapon. There was no threat. It was a false report filed by a man whose ego couldn't handle being ignored. The fallout was swift, brutal, and public. By that evening, the video of Thorne's arrest, filmed by the lady in the garden center, had 3 million views. The title was simple: "Hero Marine Arrested for Parking While Black." The image of a uniformed officer twisting the arm of a Silver Star recipient sparked a firestorm of outrage that crossed all political lines. Veterans groups were furious. Civil rights groups were mobilized. The city attorney took one look at the evidence, the medical report detailing the damage to Thorne's hip replacement, and the undeniable video of the arrest, and recommended a settlement immediately. There was no defense. It was pure, unadulterated bias and incompetence. Captain Marcus Thorne sued the city, the police department, and Officer Vance personally. He also sued Braden Holt for defamation and malicious prosecution. The city settled for $6.4 million. Officer Derek Vance was terminated 2 weeks later. The review board found he had violated 7 department policies and stripped him of his certification, ensuring he would never work in law enforcement again. At 32, his career was over, his name permanently etched into the public record as a symbol of failure. Braden Holt fared no better. He was charged with filing a false police report and misuse of the 911 system. His face was plastered on the news. His real estate firm lost major contracts as investors distanced themselves from the entitled 911 caller. He ended up pleading guilty, paying a massive fine, and serving 30 days of community service picking up trash in the very parking lot where he had felt so superior. Marcus Thorne used a significant portion of the settlement money to start a legal defense fund for veterans who had been wrongfully detained or harassed. He never returned to that hardware store. This story isn't just about a parking spot. It's about the assumptions we make when we look at one another. Officer Vance saw a threat where he should have seen a hero. Braden Holt saw a criminal where he should have seen a neighbor. Both men allowed their bias to override the truth that was right in front of their eyes. Captain Thorne had the rank, the history, and the resources to fight back, But what happens to the man who doesn't have a silver star? What happens to the citizen who can't remain calm while their arm is being twisted? It is time we demand a system that respects citizens first and assumes guilt last. It is time for officers like Vance to be weeded out before they destroy a life not after. And it is time for people like Holt to learn that the police are not a customer service line for their prejudices. If you believe that our veterans deserve better and that our justice system needs to be held to a higher standard, please like this video and share it. We need to keep these stories alive to ensure they don't happen again. What do you think should be the penalty for filing a false police report based on bias? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and thank you for watching.